everybody, Dave here in the New to You Speakers Southern Workshop. We have a new project. I think those of you that may have watched some of my other videos know that I like KLH quite a bit. And I've made a full video about the KLH Model 6, the history of KLH, Henry Close, etc. And I'll put a link to that down in the description and maybe a link over here. This is a pair of KLH Model 24s. They didn't live their life as a pair. I purchased them separately. I found one, and then that meant I had an Orphan, and I found another Orphan. So we've put the two together, and we've got a complete pair. So let's take a look at this and get into a little more detail. And we've actually already started working on the one. You can see we've got some mismatch, both in terms of the condition of the cabinets. Actually, this one I already worked on a lot bit, and this one still needs the work. I just pulled this one out of the shipping box from the person I bought it from. Got some stains, a little more golden color on this grill. Over on this side, it's a little more of the darker color, but it's super clean. And so I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. But let's have a look in more detail, and I'll show you what we've already done to this one, and then we'll pop this one open and see what's in store. All right, starting with the first Orphan. Now, let's see if I can get a little better close-up of the stains. There you can see them. Now we've also got some discoloration where the staples on the back side punch through and affect some of the threading. Unfortunate. This one had the dome on the tweeter pushed in quite a bit. I have pulled it out. I may do a little bit more on that. The woofer surround needs to be redoped. I have the material for that, as does this one as well. Let me pull the cover off this one. And you can see them both. Slightly different color on the surround. I believe there's two versions of the Model 24, and based on serial number range and construction so far, I think these are both the initial series of the Model 24. I pulled some screws here, so there's a couple screws missing, but the redoping I think would really help both of these. So we'll do that in one of our steps. Tweeter also has cloth surround on both. This one looks like it has a little more material. This one looks like it needs it more than this one does. But tweeter dome's in good shape here. This one sounded a little more muted, so I suspect we may find some more electrical problems when we open this one up and take a look at the crossover. I suspect the values of the cap are not as close as this one was. I'll show you that in a minute. Just to go around, take the rest of the tour, I've done some touch-up repairs, did a full cleanup of the case on this one. Here's the back side, 054155, serial number here. And over here we've got 012304. So makes this one actually a little bit older. Otherwise, and you can see there's a different style on the mounting plate that is the crossover as well. Different printing, different arrangement there. So that could turn out to a difference. I have not opened this one up yet. Keep with the tour. This one finished up very nicely, cleaned with alcohol and lacquer thinner, slight sanding, restain, and new Danish oil. And the case now looks really nice on it. Tops are in good shape as well. There you can see the top. It had one little scratch, but it's mostly been refinished out. let's take a minute and go inside this one. You can see what I've done. I've also have some pre-work pictures before I did the work on this, what the condition was. I'll pop those up as we go along here. Here's the internals of our box. It did have pink fiberglass insulation in this one and a piece of muslin to protect the back side of the speaker from fibers getting into it. So I've removed that. I have worked on this crossover already. I will pop up an image of what the measurements were for the woofer, the tweeter, and this one is the design that has a 4 microfarad cap. My cap measured around 9 with a 0.58 ESR. So I've replaced that with a, I think it's 4.2. It's actually a double cap. Total's 4.2. So that's been 4.3 actually. So that's been replaced and installed, and this speaker does sound great now. Really nice. Here's the woofer. It's got a stamp on it of October 11th, 1967, I believe is what that says. Not sure. There's no other part numbers or markings on this one. So that should be something we can compare to when we open this one up. This one essentially is ready to put back together, but I didn't want to do that yet until I opened this one up. So let's take a minute now and pop this one open and see what we get. All right, we've pulled the screws on this one. So this had 7 out of 8 identical screws, 1 shorty. So somebody has been in here once upon a time. This woofer has no date stamp, but otherwise its construction looks very similar. Got the red X over here on the positive side. Same color wiring, blue and black. That's what this one had as well. Let me get this one disconnected. And we've got a little piece of muslin fabric and pink insulation here also. So let me unstuff this and disconnect as well. So our connections here are red, yellow, blue, and black, black, black. Makes perfect sense. Matches exactly what was in this one as well. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. The fabric surround has almost no doping material left in it. So you can pretty much see right through the weave. So, you know, this is intended to be, it's a sealed box. It's the classic Henry Close acoustic suspension design, but you're not getting the effect of the air spring. You know, the resistance of the air in the box when this driver is excited, you're not getting that effect because the air is leaking out. When the cone goes backwards, the air is leaking out, and you don't get that suspension cushion that it's intended to. As a sealed box, you just don't get the right effect. So the redoping should really help the low end on this one. So we have an issue. There's no crossover. This was wired directly. It appears that there was a crossover, but it has been removed, and you can see the metal plate in this one is a shiny aluminum. This one is a black something. I'm not sure what that is yet, but here you can see the crossover was mounted 2 screws below the plate. This has one iron core inductor and the 4 microfarad cap. Over here, we've got nothing. So the person I bought this from may or may not have known that. I can't say. I'm going to leave some. I will probably contact him and let him know that there was no crossover in it. That's unfortunate. So we'll have to recreate that. That'll take a little work to figure out what the value is of this iron core inductor, but I'm sure we can get a replacement. I would have changed the caps anyway, so given that there is none, probably not an issue, but I will take some resistance measurements on the drivers and we'll see what we've got there. Okay, on this one, the wires are, there's a housing behind the tweeter to prevent any coupling between the two drivers, and we've got a date of September 19th, 1967 on this one. This one's got a date of February 4th, 1969. So that's interesting. And then there's some insulation behind this. The tweeter back cover is actually a fairly thick cardboard masonite. It looks like there was some butyl caulk on here. Most of that seems to be gone, so I'll probably replace that. And the butyl sealing the hole for where the wires pass through the back tweeter cover are also missing. So we'll get that sealed up. So it looks like here we'll have a refinishing project. I've got to take some measurements. Let me do that in a second, and I'll post those for you. Refinishing, seal up the both woofers. I've got the capacitors already to configure a crossover for this one, but I don't have the right inductor, so I'm going to have to source an inductor, and we'll come back and figure out what to do with the grills. So that meant it was time to find out more about the inductor that we needed. We were going to rebuild the crossover anyway with new caps, so I did the normal thing you would do. What's the value of the inductor on a KLH Model 24 speaker crossover? This crossover has the 4 microfarad capacitor. Search for that. Went into a normal Google search. Lots of Audio Karma postings, classic speaker pages, audio, all kinds of information. The Gemini AI bot on Google couldn't quite determine what the inductor was. I spent an hour looking through all these forum posts, couldn't find it. It's just not in there that I could find. So next step, what do you do under such a circumstance? Well, next up is ChatGPT. I took the same search parameters. What is the value of the inductor on a KLH Model 24 speaker crossover? The capacitor on this crossover has a value of 4 microfarads. And look what we got. Popped right up in the first paragraph. He says they're not sure, can't find the schematic, but here's a clue from the owners of the KLH Model 24 on Classic Speaker Page Forum. And I thought I had checked out this specific listing, and I couldn't find it in that forum. I couldn't find this post. It said there was another post. I hadn't found that one after my hour of searching. So they summarize it's a good estimate that the inductor is 1.6 millihenries. Great news. That's what we wanted to hear. And then it's, of course, ChatGPT is very conversational, and it teases you to keep going. So I did. I said, I think this speaker is the Series 1, so can you dig into that and confirm? It found some more information, confirmed that I have the Series 1. It explained the difference between Series 1 and Series 2. That's great news for those of you that might have a Series 2 and how your speaker is different. And so it gave you the summary here again that it says we're pretty sure it's in the 1.5 to 1.6 millihenries, and it explains why it thinks that. And then I said, well, I've looked everywhere for an official KLH diagram, but I couldn't find one. Can you find one? So we were on a roll, and he says, yes, I found one. So I looked at this, and turns out that this doesn't have the speaker crossover diagram. I told him, I said, that source only includes the KLH Model 24 turntable diagram, which is often a source of confusion. Can you find the crossover diagram specific to KLH Model 24 Series 1 speaker? And he couldn't find it. So I think we're going to go with the 1.6 millihenry. Turns out I started to look for a 1.6 millihenry inductor, found it, but I also found another eBay listing that had a couple of them for sale, pulled from a working KLH Model 24. So, you know, in this photo here, if you were to pop open this photo, it's really just that capacitor and inductor screwed to the back wall. So that's exactly what ours looks like. And so there was a guy online selling a couple of those for parts plus shipping for less than what it would cost me to buy a replacement from Parts Express or Matasound or one of the other online providers. So I purchased those, and we're waiting their arrival, and that'll make us complete finally. I think the message here is, if Google search isn't getting you what you want, try ChatGPT. Very effective. While we're waiting for the replacement crossover to come in so we can get that updated and installed, we're going to redope the surrounds on both the tweeter and the woofer. We've got Larry from Vintage AR. We've got his magic sauce here, and we've done this before on video, so I'm not going to film the whole thing, but we're going to apply the dope to all 4 of the surrounds from our new pair and let that dry. It takes about 24 hours, and that should seal up all the permeability in the cloth surrounds. I'm getting low, so I may have to contact Larry and get some more. He doesn't always have it in stock, but usually if you just wait a few weeks, he makes another batch and puts it up for sale. So let's get that done. The postal carrier has just arrived with our 2 eBay purchases of a replacement crossover. Now these are a little different, and there's a good point here that we should spend some time and talk about. Over on our original, which is the one on the left here, we had our inductor and we had this capacitor mounted in there originally. This is a 4 microfarad 50 volt axial capacitor. And if we go look at our data, I measured that one. It's this one here. I measured it a couple times, so it's around 9 microfarads. Now, and over on our eBay purchased Orphan, it had no capacitor when we opened it. That's indicated by the none. So we did our ChatGPT session, and then we realized it was cheaper just to buy a full crossover on eBay. So I bought 2 crossovers pulled from the Model 24. Here they are, but they don't have the same capacitor as this one. And I know this causes a lot of questions for people when they open up their Model 24s and they see this strange configuration right here. You have what's listed as a 2 microfarad 50 volt capacitor. One end's got 1 wire and the other end's got 2 wires. And same thing here. This is actually a 4 microfarad capacitor. It's actually 2 microfarad capacitors in 1 canister. And I did, just for fun, even though we don't plan to use these capacitors, I measured them. One measures 4.4 and the other measures 4.5. We're going to be cutting those out, and we'll be replacing those with the MKPs
Now, I don't have a 4 microfarad MKP, so we're going to do the 3 plus 3 plus a 1. I don't have any 3s available at short notice, so we'll be at 4.3. That's within 10%, so we should be fine there. So we're going to snip this one out. We're going to solder this one up properly and get it in line. And so we'll end up, we only need to use one of these. We'll have a spare for some point in the future. So we're going to end up with this exact configuration, an OEM iron core inductor with our replacement capacitor wired in just as it was from the factory. And so we'll take one of these, mount it here, wire it in, and we'll be ready to go. We'll have one as a spare, and we'll put that off to the side. So I did just want to talk about the 3-leaded capacitor a little bit, because I know a lot of people get thrown off by this. And if you don't have a capacitance meter, you really can't check it. And a lot of people think this is a 2 and they put a 2 in, and you don't get the results you're expecting. And that's why it's actually a 4. We're getting closer. Our missing crossover has been installed with our eBay replacement plus our new capacitors. And let me make a comment about the wire nuts. Normally I wouldn't use wire nuts. I know it's frowned upon, but I guess I'll have to conclude that if it was good enough for Henry Close, it's good enough for me. So I've reused the original wire nuts in both cases, and we've hot glued our cap down to the inductor. So I think we're ready to go. We'll get this restuffed with the insulation. We'll show you that. Then we have completely redoped both woofers now. So these shouldn't let any air pass through the cloth surround. It did take 2 coats, and I know Larry from Vintage AR warns that when you're using the dope, KLH woofers may take 2 coats, but never 3. So I felt there was still some porosity after the 2 coats, after the first coat, so I did add a second. And you see we've still got that color difference. Not much I can do about that at this point. So we are going to to get a complete seal, we're going to put our rope caulk here. I'll show you that. That's a little tip for acoustic suspension woofers that we need to do. And we'll also seal the tweeter back box on this one. Tweeter cavity wasn't sealed properly. So we'll do that, and we're getting closer. As part of our project to seal up the box and our woofer and our tweeter, it's worth talking about another product we're going to use. This is pretty much the standard industry accepted product. This is called Mortite. And usually you'll see, and I can show you, there's residue here of, it's essentially a rope caulk. It's, I believe, an acrylic. It feels like clay, like you'd have modeling clay, but it's very cohesive as opposed to adhesive, meaning it sticks really well to itself, and it sticks only a little bit to the surface you put it on. So it's actually removable. Now, the gray material that was here, you can see I peeled most of it up, but some of it was, in fact, well stuck. So I had to cut it with a razor blade. That is some previous rope caulk, and most speakers have gray. I have the wood tone version, which obviously blends in well with the walnut style speakers that you find quite frequently here. So we've just it comes in a roll like this, it's pre-segmented, so you can separate these strands and just take whatever length you need, and you don't even have to form it into the bead like that. It's already pre-formed. So you just cut the length you need, place it, and we're going to seal the tweeter in. We've already put the material in this woofer hole, and we've put it in this woofer hole already. this tweeter was never removed. This tweeter was never removed, and so it's sealed reasonably well, and I didn't want to open it up again, so we're going to leave that. On this one, we also have to fill this little hole in the cardboard back box for the tweeter, because air will come in and out of that, and we don't want the acoustic performance of the woofer to affect the acoustic performance of the tweeter, since it's an open back tweeter. So we're going to take a little ball of this, wad it up, and seal up that hole as well. Then we'll be ready to remount. So when we screw this down, and when we screw the tweeter and the woofer down to the baffle board, this Mortite rope caulk will squeeze. But it will be, the tweeter and woofer will still be removable. It won't leave a residue like if you're thinking something like silicone caulk. It's not like that. It's a very different type of material, more like a clay or a putty. So that's the next step, and oh, I guess I should also mention, you can see we have restuffed all the original fiberglass is in here. It is pink fiberglass, and then there's this black piece of muslin cloth to prevent fibers from coming back into the woofer, and that's what that is, and that was on both of them. So we're getting closer. I did neglect to mention that I always like to put some white glue in every one of these holes before I drive the hole screws in, because especially since these are particle board baffles, they tend to chip and the glue breaks down over time. So putting the glue in there helps keep everything nice and tight, and prevent stripped screws. If you do have a stripped screw, you just put a piece of toothpick in there, throw some sawdust in, something like that, and that'll help tighten that up. Oh, sorry, I'm getting too excited. I've still got to refinish this whole box on this one, so it still needs some love. That'll be coming up next. And we have some, I think we may have looked at this before, but we've got some wood veneer repairs. We've done that on other videos. We probably won't show you all that. And we'll square up these corners with our wax filler sticks, do a proper cleaning, alcohol, lacquer thinner, maybe some acetone. We'll see what this is. And then we'll do a light sand, stain, and Danish oil. So I'm probably not going to show you that. So we'll just get to the listening in the grills. That'll be our final two steps probably for this video. I've tried several treatments to get out the stains and see if I could get the color match. We've got quite a bit of staining here. Here's where the badges, I've pulled them off already since I've decided we're going to recover. There was a small stain here, but the color match, after doing the stain treatment, couldn't get the stains out. The color match isn't right, so we're going to recover them. And we've begun that process already. Pulled all the staples, and I'm going to end up recovering them just like I did the Model 6s. So I'm not going to go through all that, but we'll show you when they're back in shape. All right, we've pulled the grill cloths. I wanted to mention one other item you need to be aware of. Let me get the right angle so you can see it here, right there. When there's only one staple gun on the market that can fire 1/8 inch long staples, and I don't have it, so I do all my reattaching of grill cloth with contact cement. But you have to be very careful, because when the staples have come through the masonite on the first time, you get a little blowout here on the front side. And so depending on what kind of grill cloth you're using, these little blowouts are going to show up on your finished side of your grill. So it's necessary to remove them, cover them, put another layer of fabric, do something so that you don't have that problem. And I've had that problem before. The first time I recovered a pair, I thought I cleaned up this little blowout properly, but it doesn't take much, and depending on what your cloth is, you can see it, so you really have to watch that. Quick demo on my way. I'm using a straight edge razor blade. I'm using kind of a little circular motion, and sometimes you have to go back in the other direction, and that chops off all those blowouts, so that depending on what type of fabric you're using, they shouldn't be visible. That's all there is to it. You end up with a little of this masonite dust, but it brings them right down to flush. We are now done. And here's our recovered grill. We've got kind of a linen color, more of an AR style color, as opposed to the brownish gold. So let's get rid of that. This one we've already installed. We'll take you on a little tour, give a listen, but I'm liking them a lot. Oh, there we are with the emblems reinstalled. Let's get a little close up. Our top color match, even though these obviously were never a match set, you know, came out beautiful. You may not get to see that because of the angles and the lighting, but the colors is very good overall. So quite happy. Finish looks nice. Our grills now look nice. Our emblems look nice, and they play nice. Let's have a listen.